What's up, trade crew? Welcome back to the HVAC R&D podcast, and dropping in with the second of my 4 live shows from AHR, right here, right now, with Todd Titus from HARDI. Let's get it, y'all. What's up, trade crew? The AHR Expo is officially a wrap. What a week it was. Live shows in the podcast pavilion, live shows from the floor, getting the opportunity to moderate a workforce development panel. That was so cool. Thank you so much for the opportunity, AHR. And again, getting to spend time walking students through the showroom floor for another year in a row. Getting to see so many people face to face, that's truly what this industry is about. To everyone that came out to support me and Kristen in the show, shook our hands, grabbed selfies, or just said we listen every week, thank you so much. To the friends I missed because we're all sprinting across the convention center for 3 straight days, we'll catch up soon. I hate I missed you, but you know what? We got plenty of time. HVAC R&D has always been about one thing, and that's collaboration over competition. Contractors, distributors, manufacturers, reps, we're all better when we work together and challenge each other to raise the standard of this trade. A huge thank you to our sponsors who help make this show possible. Live Switch, JPL Flex, Diversitech, RLS Rapid Locking System, True Nature Meats, and a very, very special trade crew welcome to the family with Residio and Mon Hummel. If you believe in growing the trades the right way, you're in the right place. Let's get it going, y'all.
Good morning. I'll say almost happy afternoon, AHR Day 2. My name is Ryden Atzenhofer. I am the host of the HVAC R&D podcast. Been doing this for about 5 years. This is my 4th AHR in the podcast pavilion, so thank you so much for walking by and hanging out and taking a seat and just listening for a few minutes. Today, joining me live is Todd Titus. Todd is the Director of State Government Affairs at HARDI, where he leads state-level advocacy efforts across all 50 states on behalf of the HVACR distribution industry. As the first person to hold this title, Todd works directly with legislators, regulators, and industry partners to track and influence policies that impact how our industry operates, from refrigerants and emission codes, compliance, and distribution realities. If you've ever wondered how decisions are made at the state level actually affect contractors, distributors, and manufacturers on the ground, this is that conversation. So let's welcome Todd Titus, and thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And who's that guy? That's Dennis back there, former guest of the show. Great guy. Thanks for walking by. Go see him at the Sure Tape booth. What's the booth number? 2131. C2131. See you, buddy.
Right,
sorry.
Well, so we get VIP experiences after we come
VIP,
on the show? I'm walking by all day tomorrow.
Yes, please. Please do. So, Todd, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to speak with us today. For folks that are walking by or who may not fully understand what HARDI does and who you are, how would you describe HARDI's role in the HVACR ecosystem?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me on here. So HARDI is the trade association representing your wholesale distributors internationally, nationwide, and within the state and at the local level. When you look at it from a comparative thing that some people might know, you have your contractor associations they might be a member of in their state or national. We're that before the distributors. We work closely with the manufacturers ones, such as AHRI, who's putting on the expo. We also work with all those contractor associations. We talent development, education, market intelligence, and networking opportunities and all those kinds of things really work as association as well as government affairs. We work to make sure that everyone's represented thoroughly, and we're kind of in a unique situation being the distributors where you have a hand in each pot. We're making sure the manufacturers and help with their association activities to make sure that everything's going well with that and support each other as well as the contractors too.
There's a lot of people that don't understand what HARDI does for the industry, and I come from the distribution side. There's not many shows that have the perspective I have. I grew up in a contracting family and then transitioned to distribution, so I've seen it from both sides. But I've also seen how difficult it can be sometimes to get understanding of what's coming down the road and why things are happening related from manufacturer down through distributor, then properly to the contractor. And HARDI does a very, very fantastic job of really trying to do their best to educate manufacturers and distributors so that we can help really grow the knowledge base for our contractors. And you yourself focus specifically on state and public affairs. So why is state-level policy where so many of the biggest industry impacts, and what all is happening right now?
Well, across all 50 states, everyone's really taking policy making into their own hands. They're after we had the AIM Act and the transition and everything going on from there, it's really more of a political move. As the next administration took office in 2024, everyone realized that there's a potential for changes, and states got scared. So states started to realize that they needed to make their own policy and take their own initiatives into their own hands. HARDI had the foresight to see this coming, and that's why my position was created and why I was hired. From that, we learned a lot. We started tracking all 50 states using search tools, and we learned the volume of everything that's going on. Currently, we're tracking over 300, close to 400 pieces of legislation. Just legislation, not regulation, across the entire country in all 50 states. Obviously, there's more states that have pieces of legislation more than others. Looking at California, New York, Washington, states that really push their climate agendas and environmental initiatives, which there's nothing wrong with, but we need to be aware of to make sure that nothing's going to adversely affect the industry or the businesses on a daily basis.
What surprised you the most when you stepped into this role, especially since it was a new one, you didn't have anything to go off of, you were kind of going to have to write your own playbook. What really surprised you as you started to see how policy actually gets shaped?
Kind of alluded to what I just said with the volume. We knew there was going to be a lot. We knew the importance of why the position needed to be created, but the actual amount of policy making that is going on is mind-boggling. We all knew that there was going to be a couple states we're going to be focusing on, but to have pieces of legislation that are going to affect your business of upwards of 400 every single year, that took us by surprise, and that's leading to further expansion of our state advocacy efforts. We're looking at we just recently added a public affairs associate, Madison Romero, who's been in contact with you with getting me on this podcast, and she's doing a great job of connecting real stories out to the public, because when a contractor goes and has a piece of policy affect their business and now they want to tell their story, we help make sure that story gets told and gets to the proper news outlets. That wasn't happening before. We need to make sure that our stories are being told more than just the lobbyist talking to the legislator. We need to make sure the news and the public are aware of what's going on too.
Well, and I think it's interesting to see how much the industry's changed. When I first started this in a work truck as a kid, we were using R12. And then as I got into distribution, we were transitioning from 22 into 410. And then it took a little while for other things to happen, but there have been more industry changes in the last 10 years that I've been in distribution than I faced the entire of my career put together before that. And that rapid pace of change is not going away. It almost feels like it's coming quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah, it's definitely going to, right now it's always going to be ramping up, because, when some of these entities live in echo chambers, they share their bad ideas with other bad ideas. And when you don't put, I'm a firm believer in debates, conversation, and people that don't agree with your own opinion, that friction, that's what makes the great solutions. If I'm sitting there with everyone and I tell you I have an idea and every single person is agreeing with me, that's not a good idea. And that's what we're trying to make sure happens with some of these state energy offices and some of these state entities. They're all just agreeing with each other on these policies, but they're not bringing in industry input. So we have to make sure the industry's loud, their stories are told, and the realistic possibilities of this policy is made aware. A great example would be, not to jump ahead, but like ultra-low GWP, that's a great example of how not including the industry can really create some adverse effects, whether it be immediate or it's going to happen later on.
Trade crew, I'd like to introduce you to my friends over at LiveSwitch. If you haven't heard of them, they're developing a platform specifically for trades contractors and service professionals like yourselves. So picture this. Mrs. Jones calls the office. Her furnace is making some kind of strange sound. Normally, you would just have to roll the truck and go see what's going on. But instead, with LiveSwitch, you can jump on a video call right then and there with no app with Mrs. Jones. You can see things from her perspective on a fully functional video call. You can take screenshots, you can record, and you can deliver a different experience that no other contractor is giving their homeowners right now. If you're worried about it working with stuff you're already using, you know what? It integrates perfectly into Jobber, Service Titan, House Call Pro, any of the stuff that you guys are already using. It makes it a seamless transition to add this new tool to your arsenal. Go to HVACRD.com, visit the vendor hub, set up your LiveSwitch demo today. You can also click the link down in the description below, or you can find the link to the demo in my bio. Thanks everybody for listening to the show. Check out LiveSwitch. I promise you it is an app for you. It gives you an ability to do something completely different for homeowners that no one else is doing right now. You guys won't be disappointed. Go schedule your demo today. right, IAQ folks, this one's for the contractors and the trade crew that are looking to level up their indoor air quality installs and make life easier in the process. The new Honeywell Home Whole Home Dehumidifier is a high-performance IAQ system designed with input from HVAC partners like yourselves. The revolutionary tri-directional outlet design with horizontal, vertical, and right-angle options speeds up installation and integrates seamlessly. To learn more about the Honeywell Home Whole Home Dehumidifier, head over to the HVAC R&D Vendor Hub and click the Residio Honeywell Home link for more details. Now, trade crew, depending on when you're hearing this, you may have already seen, or soon you will see, the president of Mon Hummel have me literally jump on one of their filters during the AHR Expo. And let me tell you, rhinos don't just jump on anything. The thin line Ultramax frameless HVAC mini pleat filter is built for commercial and industrial applications where medium to high efficiency filtration truly matters. It delivers MERV 13 performance with low pressure drop to help maximize energy savings, plus high dust holding capacity for extended service life. And there's no traditional plastic, metal, or cardboard frame, reducing environmental impact while still delivering serious durability. If it can handle a rhino, it can handle your job site. Learn more through the Mon Hummel link in the HVAC R&D Vendor Hub today.
And talking about that and talking about 2026 right now, what are the biggest state-level advocacy issues that HARDI is actively engaged in?
Well, we are in a lawsuit with the state of New York. Us and AHR have a joint lawsuit with the Department of Environmental Conservation under Part 494. That is their ultra-low GWP transition. We filed that lawsuit with AHRI on April 9th of 2025 after the policy was adopted on Christmas Eve of December 2024. If that doesn't kind of perk your eyebrows up with a sense of, are they trying to hide something or put it under the rug to adopt it quickly, you should be thinking that. Nothing gets adopted on Christmas Eve, especially when they signed it on December 9th and just kind of sat on it for a while and then hope no one would see it get passed through when they made it public. But nevertheless, they adopted the policy after we met with them several times, multiple times with the governor's office, multiple times with the DEC, but they adopted the policy as it was presented, which created an ultra-low GWP transition. It created a virgin bulk ban of substance. Specifically, the first one to be affected from that would be supermarkets, 404A, 507A, and how that would negatively affect physical and financial harms on those supermarkets when there's not really a reclaim market if you ban the virgins for those supermarkets, which means full system transitions for supermarkets in New York. And if anyone is aware with what's going on in New York, they have food deserts in upstate New York that are severe problems where people are driving 45 minutes to an hour just to get groceries. If you start now creating financial harm on that and they have to close some of these grocery stores, people are now going to be driving over an hour just to get milk.
And that's not going to work.
No. So we're trying to explain this to them that businesses will have to take millions of dollars of loans just to keep their refrigeration together, because no one's going to go to a grocery store if you're not going to go to a grocery store to buy your cereal if you can't buy your milk.
No,
that's the kind of the best way to explain it with those situations. And racks are not expensive when you look at the alternatives. If people are not familiar with what ultra low GWP is, that means it's a threshold of 10. That means you're going to look at CO2 systems basically for these supermarkets, and those are if you're not in the right climate, those can be very inefficient because they have to run at such a high pressure. So upwards of pressures of around, I believe it's about 17, 2,000 psi, which, if you don't know, that's enough pressure to crush a nuclear submarine. So the amount of pressure these systems run on is actually quite crazy, which leads to, if there is a leak or some kind of issue, it tends to blow the whole charge. And now you're looking at CO2 exposure to produce, you're looking at closure of the Whole Foods, the rack systems, everything else having severe maintenance issues that they now have to be affected. And now you have to hope that the contractor can get in there that day or within the next day or two. Otherwise, you have a lot of produce that's going to go bad. And if a grocery store loses something like that, they actually bring in dry ice, which, if you don't know what dry ice exactly is, it's frozen CO2. Yep. So now there's additional CO2 exposure to food that they're now supposed to sell to be eaten. So it's a very complicated topic, but I've only talked about CO2. Ultra-low GWP also includes propane, isobutane, and ammonia. Ammonia used to be involved in about the 70s and 80s for residential, but we got away from it because if you don't know, it's a very heavy chemical, and if it leaks, it'll just sit there, and then that's toxic to one breath to potentially kill you. So it puts contractors' lives at risk if they don't know there's a leak going on, and they can walk right into that in one breath, and now the contractor's gone.
Well, and the headache with so much of this is always that the people that are making the policy have no idea what it's actually going to affect and who it's going to affect. They've never been in the field. They've never spent time with a technician. They've never talked with the business owners. It just made sense for them because in most cases somebody lined somebody else's pocket, and that's how things worked. Mm-hmm. So it's a very necessary conversation to really discuss what this is changing. And when you also look at it, the cost of overall retrofitting and overhauling that many systems countrywide is going to cripple the industry in many ways.
Yeah, and it's unnecessary physical and financial risks of putting people at harm. And then the third one I got, the talking about propane, for example, that's highly explosive. And the thing that people might not realize is, yes, propane's in all of your homes right now, but we're all familiar with that rotten egg smell, that if there's a propane leak. But what you might not know is if you have propane in a residential system and it's running through the closed loop and it gets put in that compressor, it removes the odorant.
Yep.
So now that you have an odorless propane leak either inside or adjacent to a residential property, and then you're not going to find that out until it's too late.
Yeah, and when it's too late, we mean boom.
Yeah. Whether that be an apartment or a home, it's unnecessary because you're looking at what are currently at with the A2Ls. We're around 700 GWP is the limit, and then 150 for commercial. All they're trying to do is get you down to 10. So we already just improved from going 2,200 to 700. We just improved by 1,500. Is improving really by 700 putting lives and people's businesses at risk worth that?
No, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But that's the way it ends up going because we know how that works.
But it's getting them outside those echo chambers and getting the stories told, trying to explain to them what exactly is realistic for our industry, and that's what we're trying to make sure is done. There's pieces of legislation out there, Senate Bill 9066 in the New York and Assembly Bill 9596. Both those bills would correct those problems and aside from the lawsuit, and try to help us fix New York's transition and not have patchwork. But yeah, I've talked a lot about ultra-low GWP. That's our big issue that we're dealing with right now. There are several other things. PFAS, if you're familiar with that, it ties us in a lot. Basically, if you don't know, the definition's too broad for PFAS that all these states are adopting, which means it accidentally pulls in a lot of the refrigerants and lubricants, coatings we put on components such as compressors. It's pulling all of these things into this broad definition of a prohibition, and by doing so, they're going to leave us without applicable technologies, which for heating and cooling in the states that are adopting it. So we have to make sure we're exempt from all of these prohibitions going into place. New Mexico actually has a really great exemption language that we've been trying to push in other states and have done so successfully. So there's that. If you are curious about, to not dwell too much on PFAS, but if you actually are curious about what your state's doing with PFAS, HARDI has a great PFAS policy prohibition tracker. It's on our website, hardinet.org. You can go and look at it and see what exactly, if your state has a prohibition that's affecting your that's going to affect your business. It's very simple, color-coded, just yes or no, is it going to affect it?
This episode of the HVAC R&D podcast is brought to you by Diversitech, the one-stop source for contractors who want to simplify every job. Whether you're stocking up on install supplies, service parts, thermostats, controls, or digging into the legendary tool line from Hillmore, Diversitech has you covered. They're not just a parts supplier. They help build solutions for HVAC pros, offering pads, condensate management gear, electrical parts, replacement components, premium tools that make installs, service calls, and maintenance faster, cleaner, and more professional. Partnering with Diversitech means fewer trips back to the supply house, more time on the job, and less chance of callbacks because you're using the right gear from the start. If you want to work smarter, stay stocked up, and show up for every job ready, Diversitech is a trade pro's best friend. Since 1961, J.P. Lamborn Company has been the name behind some of the best flexible duct products in the business. A third-generation family-owned company that built its legacy on integrity, innovation, and service. That same spirit drives them today. with antimicrobial technology, top-tier materials, and a relentless focus on quality. When contractors need a product they can stand behind, JPL delivers. It's more than just flex duct, it's peace of mind. JPL, the name you know, the quality you trust, and the flex that delivers.
The other thing we're seeing is also fossil fuel bans. Low NOx emission limitations will vary wildly by state to state. How challenging does that patchwork become for distributors and contractors?
That's actually one of the most complicated ones because typically your fossil fuel ban or something is more straightforward is receiving legal challenges, but it's under the an EPCA violation. This EPCA is unfortunately has not been successful in court in NOx emissions. It's been helpful in not helpful. It's been successful in challenging a direct fossil fuel ban, such as the California Restaurant Association v. City of Berkeley, as setting a precedent for EPCA. Preemption of standards there. But when you go and look at it from a NOx emission standpoint, they're using it as a workaround because EPCA doesn't talk specifically about nitrous oxide emissions, which is essentially, if you're not familiar with that, if you have a combustion furnace, that's what that is. A combustion water heater, whatever it may be. Combustion creates NOx, and that's what determines that. So you're having that primarily pop up in California, Colorado. It's not been adopted, but it's popping up in other vicinities around there. The ones in California, though, are specifically to their air quality management districts that are under the authority of the EPA. So we've been working to try to get some federal government input on that one, working through the DOJ's office and other entities. But the zero NOx emission is a very complicated one, and then it's branching heavily into the building codes, and all these things are really becoming connected because we see ENGOs and other entities are now trying to push building codes to approve your A3 refrigerants. So now we're having to try to track building code levels all the way down to the local county and city level to see what exactly is going on at these entities, because they're trying to create what they're calling, they'll use an example as like a study. So they'll tell a city to adopt a bad policy. It'll actually be adopted. It's not temporary. Adopt a bad policy. And then the state will create a report based off this and say, see, it is possible. No, your city of over 1 million people cannot be used as an example of this town of 10,000 over on a suburb of your bigger city.
You can't.
That is not what that's what we're trying to explain to them. But they believe if they do this enough that they'll eventually get away with it. And I've actually had a conversation with somebody out in Boston, Massachusetts, and they were at this conference and they were explaining what they were doing. And I said, you do realize this is easily going to bring a challenge of EPCA. Like, this is not clear code. This is a fossil fuel ban, and there's precedent out there. And she said, oh no, we fully expect to be sued. I was like,
welcome to legislation.
Yeah.
Well, in California, New York, Washington, a lot of those areas all become kind of the testing grounds. And the problem is, like you said, a lot of the things that they're using as a testing ground can't truly be used as a situation for something else because they don't fit the same mold. Yeah. You can't take an example, like you said, $1 million city, or excuse me, 1 million population city versus a 10,000 population rural county or rural city. This doesn't make sense. So the regulation is never going to add up or line up for not just the local governments, but for the contractors that are dealing with it. And, you know, I'm from North Carolina, and we deal with every single county. We have 100 counties in the state. Every single county has one different thing they nitpick versus the other. And seeing that continue to grow through all these different regulations is only causing even more confusion, not just for the contractor. It's just as confusing for the distributor. It's just as confusing for the inspector, because most of those guys don't ever truly get taught what they are going into. They get hired and become an inspector, and they try to learn everything they can, and they're trying to go through, and half the time they have these nitpick things. It's because they read one manual and they picked it out, so now they can remember something, and that's what they go and do. So it's from top down, it's an absolute mess.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sitting here talking about all the fossil fuel bans and the approach of EPCA and building codes and things like that. It can be on the inverse and be just as bad. There's a bill out in Missouri, House Bill 2384. This piece of legislation would actually revert the energy code in the entire state back to the 2009 standard. Now, if you are not aware, that building code standard needs to be 2024 in order to allow for our A2L refrigerants. So if all of a sudden you take it back to 2009 thinking you're removing regulation and allowing more costs to be with less red tape, you're actually removing pieces of product from the market and their allowance. So we have to try to educate them and say this is actually bad for you to roll back regulations to a 2009 standard. So there's both inverses have their own versions. You can tell by which ones I'm talking about whether it might be political on each side, but both sides need the education of the industry and the input of the industry in order to make sure you have the best piece of policy out there.
And from your perspective, speaking of that, do you kind of feel that's where policymakers miss the real world impact of the actual supply chain?
Oh, they absolutely do, because it's, if I don't blame them, we haven't been great at voicing our own opinion throughout the entire supply chain from our real stories. We have lobbyists, yes, but what's powerful is when you hear the story of whether it be a person's heater going out and now they can't install a new system, so it's a brand new one, or you go and you hear a story about a contractor walking into ammonia and possibly dying, and that's why the ultra low is not a good idea. It's getting these real time stories, these real world experiences out there and told to your legislators and your policymakers. Because if you can get those out there, that's how you create change. If you can sit back and you complain to all of your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, you're not helping anything. Write those complaints down and mail it in. That's what they need to hear. Even if it's not on the same page as me, even though most of the time the industry tends to be on the same page, which is something we're really good at, voicing your opinion matters. Getting aligned with the industry is important, but speaking up is a first step. We'll figure out the next one after that.
Do you ever host where you bring in groups of contractors
Yes.
or distributors and kind of have them have a town hall and you discuss policy and discuss different things so that you can kind of build even your own voice of customer and voice of, I guess, distribution that you then take into legislation?
Right. So at HARDI, what we do is we talk to our membership frequently, whether it be surveys to hear back what's going on with them. If we are unsure on a piece of policy, if you can't figure out what this stands for, we always make sure that we have a government affairs committee, a refrigerant committee, residential, whatever it may be. We can talk and get direct feedback for some people that are handling that and take the time away from their business to sit on these committees and help us work through some issues that might be kind of complicated. But unfortunately, most of the time, these are pretty straightforward of what's best for the industry, what's best for a distributor, manufacturer, contractor. That's not our stance to tell you what's best for a contractor. We work really well with some state contractor associations, national contractor associations, and collaborate to create some really powerful changes and pieces of legislation. There was a refrigerant transition bill 1462 last year. We worked with the Washington Contractor Association and their lobbyists out there, and we made a real change to where the entire transition was removed to follow the federal. So they stayed following the federal transition, and all it really created was a task force and a virgin bulk ban that doesn't take place until 2030. That's a very big win for the industry, and people don't even probably know about it. You're just probably all new that you're hearing about right now because you're probably not in Washington, but you might not have even known about it.
Trade crew, if you're looking for ways to not just install equipment, but actually grow your business, this next one is worth a listen. Built for pros and powered by Pro IQ Services, the new Honeywell Home Elite Pro thermostat is more than just a thermostat. It's a growth engine for your business. The sleek range of smart thermostats helps you deliver next-level comfort and convenience and stand out in every home. If you want to learn more about the Honeywell Home Elite Pro lineup, visit the Residio Honeywell Home link inside the HVAC R&D Vendor Hub and check out the full range for yourself. What's up, trade crew? You've heard the buzz, you've seen the press gang at every single AHR. Contractors across the country are ditching their torches for RLS press fittings, and they're not looking back. Why? Because RLS lets you finish faster, safer, and cleaner. From rooftops to mechanical rooms, crawl spaces, and attics, it's a press and go solution that's leak tested, UL recognized, and proudly made in America. Make the switch to RLS and take the heat out of your installs, literally. RLS, rapid locking system, press forward and press on.
Nope, and I don't know about it because I'm not in Washington, and I don't have time to listen to and pay
But see, that's
attention
the
to all of
thing,
it
too.
either. That's the problem. None of us do.
Yeah, but the thing too is it's important for you to hear what's in Washington. It's important to hear what's going on in California, New York, the lawsuits, the ultra low GWP, PFAS. All of this stuff is important because what happens is once one state adopts it, all the other states follow suit. It happens all the time. The state of Washington has California code just directly incorporated by reference. What that means is we say we are following what they set forth in California Energy Code Section 1234. Like they actually have that. Specifically with their it's their clean vehicle initiatives for zero emission.
Yep.
They just directly adopted whatever California did right there in their code. So now in Washington, in order to know when I watch that code for maybe zero emission fleet requirements, I'm not looking at that for Washington too. That's 2 states with one code.
And in order for you to figure it out in Washington, you've got to go look at California's code to know what you've actually got to do.
Yeah, it's just a treasure map.
So what is the HARDI Grassroots Advocacy Center, and how can members actually use it?
So earlier, or I guess later in 25, it is 26 now. Jeez. In about October, November of 25, we launched the Grassroots Advocacy Center for HARDI. What this is on our website, hardinet.org. You go to the Advocacy tab and click on the Grassroots Advocacy Center. It'll pull up every single grassroots campaign that we are running that you can click on and participate in. This is not just for distributors. This is manufacturers, contractors, or distributors. You just type in your name, your address. You can use residential or business, but whatever address you use is what the address will be that we use to locate your direct legislator that you're a constituent of. So when you pull that up, you type that in. You'll then have a drop-down arrow to identify yourself as a manufacturer, distributor, contractor. Click to the next page, and whatever that issue may be, it will preload in a text that is good enough for you to send in to voice your concerns. Or we always edit it, personalize it, make it as customized as you would like to, whether you put your name, describe your business. Maybe you would like to talk a little bit more about a specific part of that issue. Edit it as best you see fit, and then you just hit send. It'll locate your legislator, whether it's a federal or state or even a local issue. Maybe it'll go to the mayor. We do that. But it will locate who it needs to go to based on the address that you provided. So we're going to give you direct access as a constituent. And the entire process I just described takes less than 5 minutes. And you just voice your concern. You then refresh the page, go back in, and click on another one that might affect your jurisdiction or territory. Every single federal one, click on it, because it's affecting you. Every single one that's in your state, click on it. It's affecting you. We need massive input, and we welcome it from every single part of the supply chain.
Well, and what truly moves the needle, and what really is effective grassroots advocacy? Like, how important and how big of a voice do you actually need? You need 1 in 10 contractors, 10 in 10 contractors? Like, what's the real level?
I want every single one. I don't know what you're talking about with percentage.
I'm just saying.
I want them all.
Saying. like what helps to start move the needle? Because unfortunately it's impossible to get all of us to do it. But
right, I get what you're saying. No, honestly, having 50 people send in a letter is a big deal. We're getting hundreds at a time. That's how we can stop and create change. There's an issue under a standard code called ASME boiler pressure vessel. Us and AHRI worked on it together. We actually sent in a record-breaking number. I think it was somewhere around 240 public comments between distributors, contractors, and manufacturers. That's a record number to be sent in for ASME for public comments. And that helped us I don't know if it was necessarily the volume or the fact that we had that many people or the direct messaging of the content, but that alone allowed us to push that model code that would have destroyed the industry because they were pushing through, push it back a code cycle and give us 3 years to work on this. So because we had that participation, that stopped it. Because we had worked on that issue all year, and all of a sudden we get over 200 commenters, and then it stopped. That's why it's important for everyone to step up and be aware. It's also a great way to help be aware. Save the tab, refresh it once a week, see if anything is really changing to make sure that you need to be aware of going on in your area.
I think from my side of it, really it comes down to contractors, distributors. We're seeking clarity and understanding how to teach this issue to our customers, both as distributor, contractor to homeowner. Because the homeowner is even more further removed from what they're actually seeing, but it affects them almost as much as any of us, or even more, because it changes what we can or can't do in their home constantly every single year. Mm-hmm. So, outside of that, does that line up with what you guys really see? Is it's even more important just to clarify what's happening so guys know how to move forward with their business or move forward with their next business decisions?
Yeah, I mean that's like the entire heart of our market intelligence team. You know, they calculate. They're fantastic. They're one of the best in the industry, if not the best. I'm a little biased, but you know they calculate, they forecast, they take all this public data, this information, the participation of people in surveys, and they create information to help people be allowed to do that as a distributor. Then we have things like our Voice of Contractor survey, where everyone here, I hope, gets a link and participates in it when it goes out, because it allows us to then make sure that the opinions of the contractors are going in there. It's then helping the distributors be better distributors for those contractors. You know, there's great ways to be aware of everything going on. But, you know, to your point, there's a lot of changes that can be made with this policy. California Energy Commission and CARB, Air Resource Board for California, they're working on policies right now that are going to have forced serial number tracking, forced reporting of all these things up and down the supply chain. That means after a contractor installs something, you're now going to have a reporting requirement that's going to go back up the supply chain all the way to the manufacturer, aside from including the permit information. It's things like that affect your daily business. It affects everything that goes on. It affects cost. It affects everything that they are going to eventually, that is going to be consumer facing.
In North Carolina, we already have to track serial numbers. No. So since, I'm trying to think, I think 2015 roughly is when we started having to track every single serial number that went out the door, no matter what it was. So if it was a coil, if it was an air handler, furnace, gas pack, anything that was motor bearing equipment that had a serial number on it, we had to track it. And it has to be in our records so that, one, the manufacturer can come back to us, the contractor can come back to us, or the government can even come back to us at any given point and try to figure out what happened with this unit, where it came from, everything else.
Right.
So we've been doing that for a little over a decade.
So you have it for an audit. You don't have it for a reporting requirement then?
Yeah, correct.
So, well, now imagine if that was a reporting requirement, then that you then had to report every single time. Then you're putting out a dangerous thing of like, we need all your trade secret and vital information then given up to an insecure database that has frequently been hacked, frequently been leaked. Like, we had a meeting in December that was a public workshop for California. In November, their code alert emergency system was hacked and everyone's contact information was released.
Yay.
It's like, literally, they're like, let's secure everything in this December meeting. I was like, literally last month you lost all of our information. Like, but you want us to sign up for this?
That's the government.
Well, shoot, Disney got hacked in California too, so I'm not going to, I'm pretty sure they got, it's everyone out there. I don't know why. It's like all the hackers live in California for some reason.
I mean, Silicon Valley, that's where it kind of started. But so if you could give distributors and contractors one piece of advice for navigating what's coming in terms of legislation and changes, what would it be?
Of what is coming? Oh, man. Well, I hope nothing. I hope I'm successful and make sure that really doesn't happen.
Just kind of telling them, where can they go to learn how to navigate this?
Yeah, no. Getting involved with the Grassroots Advocacy Center, help your awareness, help your participation. That's going to be important. It would really help us. It helps yourselves. We'll subscribe to things. I know if you're your association, go talk to your association. HARDI has a government affairs subscriber list that you can go to on our website and subscribe to. Make sure you get our emails for such things like This Month in DC. That's our government affairs monthly email alert where you get to see everything that we've been working on under our VP Alex Ayers for government affairs, and he gets a nice video for it. So that's important information. But tell them those stories. Build relationships with your contractors. It's important to have those conversations because they don't know what your daily lives are like. Most legislators, when we have them come out after our fly-ins and state advocacy days and things that we do with our members, we tell them to invite them back out to their distribution centers. Most people think that those just look like Home Depot.
Yep.
They're blown away by what actually all these training centers, the storage, the facilities actually look like. Same thing can be said for contractors and manufacturers. Show them the changes that were done for the A2L transition when they come back and see a facility for a manufacturer. They're blown away. These stories and showing them directly what they're trying to regulate helps so much. So build those relationships because you never know when it's going to pay off. You might have a customer that's a state legislator right now and not even know it.
And that wouldn't even shock people.
No.
It happens all the time. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening today. Todd from HARDI, thank you so much for spending some time with me. If you guys have questions, want to come up and speak with us afterwards, please do so. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of Day 2 of AHR.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, man.
trade crew, thank you for listening. If you got value out of this episode, please make sure you like, follow, or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Leave me a review, drop me a comment, share the episode with your team or your apprentice or anyone in your trade crew. That's how we keep this movement going. Please follow the show on Instagram at HVAC.R&D and on LinkedIn and Facebook as the HVAC R&D Podcast. Again, thank you to our sponsors, LiveSwitch, JPL, Diversitech, RLS Rapid Locking System, True Nature Meats, and our newest sponsors, Residio and Mon Hummel. Until next time, keep charging for change, keep building better, and keep choosing collaboration over competition. Ramblin' Rhino out. Peace, y'all.